Welcome to Truth in Movies with me. I'm JayDreamerZ, and this is a segment where I break down the truth in the movies. I learn a lot when I watch movies, and sometimes the cheesier, the better. I find that they hide a lot of the truth in plain sight. So what I like to do is watch movies, pause it, and then share with you the interesting breadcrumbs that I find. If you like cheesy, cult classic kind of movies, this is going to be your jam. This is amazing. This movie is called Night of the Comet, and it was actually suggested to me by Archaics, Jason from Archaics. So a big shout out to him and his channel. It's right up both of our alleys, as it is completely an apocalyptic movie, right? If you like stuff like, like cult classics and stuff, you're going to really enjoy this one. So this one's called Night of the Comet. Now, pay close attention, because this very beginning part is the only time you're actually going to see a comet at all. Is it a comet? We're going to talk about that. What is a comet? Definitely going to have some opinions on it. But this happens around Christmas time. On Christmas time, there's a huge comet that passes by, and basically it has something to do with triggering, or is an omen of the end of the world. An apocalyptic event happens, and there are only a few survivors, and it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it. Now, I believe that this is going to perfectly reflect, or accurately reflect, many of the things that we ourselves will go through, because I believe, I'm an eschatologist. I study eschatology and the end of things, the end of the world. And I believe that this is going to help some of us if we can keep some of these tips in mind that the movies give to us. So let's kick things right off and jump into the Night of the Comet. Starts off, we're looking up at the sky, and the narrator says, "Since before recorded time, it had swung through the universe in an elliptical orbit so large that its very existence remained a secret of time and space." Ooh, real enigmatic, right? Now, obviously they're referring to some sort of a comet. This is the big part, okay? This is right up there with the story of Nibiru and the Anunnaki, and how there's this planet of the crossing that is in a huge elliptical orbit that only comes by our world every once in a while. And when it does come by, catastrophic events happen, right? But is it a planet, Nibiru? Is it a comet, as the movie portrays? Remember, when the apocalypse happens, each survivor is going to tell the story and retell the story in their own flavor, according to their own perspective. So this movie's perspective is a comet. But now, in the last few years of the 20th century, the visitor was returning. The visitor was returning, and you see the comet. Now, allegedly, this is the comet, right? So far, it's not really looking much like a comet to me as it roars in. I mean, at least not the ones that are shown on TV or anything. I've never seen comets portrayed like this. It just looks like a star. It looks like a big, shining, bright light up there in the sky, right? Now, when I look up, I'm going to tell you right now, this movie, from my perspective, seeing things through a plasma apocalypse lens, right? It's not actually a comet. I'm going to tell you what I believe comets are, but this thing that they're going to see in the movie is not a comet, how we envision comets. This is literally an opening in the sky itself, allowing in the light behind our sky from the heavens to shine in. I'll show you what I mean here in just a bit. So here's this elliptical comet. They get into the title, Night of the Comet, right? So the comet's passing by, and it says, "The citizens of Earth would get an extra Christmas present this year as their planet orbited through the tail of a comet." Now, going through the tail of a comet, or even a planetary-like object that has a comet-like tail, as many of them should, right? Without getting too far into like the academics that are taught today. Emmanuel Velikovsky, he proposed that the Earth has actually gone through the tail of another planet, right? He believes that I think he said it was Venus, right? That we went through the tail of Venus. And because we went through Venus's tail, it used to have like a comet tail. And that turned our sky red, manna fell from the sky, the oceans parted, or the Dead Sea parted, the Red Sea parted, etc. And that's right along his lines too. is that we've got this reoccurring object in the sky, whatever it may be, that comes around every once in a while, that's associated with aliens entering into our world, landing, whatever, great beasts of old, demons and stuff going into our world. Now, before we begin, because this whole movie is called Night of the Comet, and they're not going to show you that comet at all for the rest of the movie. You're not going to get a glimpse of it whatsoever. I would like to tell you what I think a comet actually is. So, I believe that the sky is a firmament. I believe that it is, that there's a solid barrier between us and the so-called heavens. I don't believe that space is black or dark. I believe that space is shiny and bright and luminescent. And what we call stars and luminaries up there in the sky are little windows that allow us to sort of see that light that is just beyond our sky or the heavens. We get a little glimpse. Now, here is an image from a YouTube channel. This guy is basically, he's got some sand and he runs an electrical current underneath the sand. And what you see right now is plasma shooting up and out of the sand. Two things I want to point out. One, that's creating a crater on the sand. Now, if I turn this picture upside down, this is more like my idea. These are all just my ideas, right? This is just my perspective. But now you can imagine that that is the moon or something that is above us that has crater-like objects on it, and those craters are not created by rocks smashing into them or dirty snowballs or whatever smashing into them. It's created by electricity coming out of the object. At least in this particular example, I believe impact craters can also be created through electricity or electrical strikes. All right, let me turn this back around. That's my idea of what comets actually are. I mean, you can see it right here, that it creates sort of like the main comet, and then there's a tail afterglow coming off of it. Many different ideas. That's just one of mine. Now, the main comet, the main event in the sky, being that, and this is from my perspective so far, right, in my research, being that we have a firmament or a solid barrier that pressurizes our world and keeps the vacuum of space separated from our pressurized system, giving us weather and other weather phenomenon and stuff, our world depressurizes from time to time. When our world depressurizes, it creates a hole in our actual sky. So the world goes dark. All of the lights go out. And this usually happens on Christmas time. There's a Christmas apocalypse, and there's also a summer solstice apocalypse as well. This movie's focusing on the Christmas one. But what you see up in the sky is what people mistake for Nibiru, or a huge red planet, or a big fiery red sun, or Venus, or some sort of a big red circular object up there in the sky, right? When in reality, it's a hole in the sky, allowing us to see the red light that is beyond our sky, because there is plasma wrapped around our world. In academics, they call it the plasmasphere, and sometimes refer to the plasma wrapping around it as plasma tubes, right? I call them plasma tentacles, plasma trunks, plasma branches, whatever you'd like to call them is fine. But anyway, that's why it's red, because that plasma up there is on the red spectrum because of its chemical elements, or it's the element that that's ionized up there. So anyhow, you see the huge red circle, but then plasma leaks out of that huge red circle. And what we start to see up in the sky, people begin to interpret in many different ways. Some people see the huge face of the Gorgon Medusa and all the plasma snakes coming off of her head, and the tongue of Kali sticking out and headed towards the ground, almost in mockery of the apocalypse that she has brought on. Some people see other things. These are just some artist renditions, okay? I'm not saying this is exactly what it would look like, but I do believe that there is a great conjunction of three different heavenly objects, or, three different things that happen up there in the sky. This is an image of, an artist rendition of what this would look like. Because there's actually two holes up there. That's why you see one huge one, and then that inner pupil one. This is the all-seeing eye. This is the eye in the sky. That one in the middle, the real small one, that's the outer hole, because I believe there's actually more than one firmament. That's my theory on that. So these people look up into the sky during these apocalyptic events that I call the plasma apocalypse. Plasma pours out of the openings in our sky, because the electromagnetic barrier that keeps the plasma away, because plasma is repelled by a magnetic force, is gone. The neutral point hits during a polarity shift. There is nothing blocking out that plasma, so it seeks to ground itself and enter into our world, coming down. And that's what people look at when they see. You can also see that there are many different carvings and drawings of the hand symbol with the eye in the middle of it. Not just the all-seeing eye with the pyramid or whatever, which we've talked about, but the eye in the middle of the hand symbol, which also looks just like a comet. Right? It depends on your interpretation. It depends on what you think of it. But oftentimes, this is the symbolism here, is the eye in the middle with the plasma hand or fingers branching out from it. This is a really good example of modern plasma. This is called a sprite. It's a weather phenomenon that's often created, but in our world today, these types of phenomena go by too quickly, so we don't usually catch them. Plus they happen way up above the clouds, above where the lightning occurs. There's lots of interesting things that happen up there. Actually, let's take a look at these. So way down here, these are clouds. You see all that? That's not the ground, that's clouds. And underneath that would be the lightning. Above the clouds, way up above where we cannot typically see, we've got plasma phenomena happening all of the time. Some are called the blue jets. And there's a blue pillar or a blue jet that shoots up into the sky. This one's called a gigantic jet. As you can see, it branches out. The one in the middle here is called columniform sprites. These sprites are up so high that they don't know which direction to go, because up there, you know, things become more buoyant and you become weightless, essentially. That's where they blast off to, and they go up way up high in the sky. So these sprites shoot up and they shoot down like this. They shoot up and they shoot down. And this one in the middle, actually, if you look at it real closely, let's zoom in on that a bit and see, what does that one in the middle remind you of? Yes, that's right. That's where I get that from, the jelly. All right, cool. So here's another example of the comet, the quote-unquote comet, which is really just the sky depressurizing, the world, the sky opening up. Now that I've established my perspective and my take on what this comet is, it's not just some regular old comet, as you're going to see, because there's a lot of context that we can add to the concept of the comet to figure out what it actually is that ended these people's world in the movie and how that reflects real life. They say scientists predicted a light show of stellar proportions. A light show of stellar proportions. We're not talking about a meteor shower and people go out and they're like, oh, swing, swing. Oh, that's cool. We're talking about a light show. This is stuff that people are starting to dream about. Everyone is starting to have apocalyptic type dreams, whether it be you're floating or flying or you can't breathe, you know, because all the oxygen's getting sucked up, the atmosphere is getting sucked out for a time. And light shows in the sky. You may have had a dream where you look up and the stars themselves are moving around, or you look up and you can actually see huge, gigantic objects, almost as if space has been, somebody lassoed space and pulled it really, really close. I know many of you have had that dream because I have. And I had the sense that other people were dreaming the same thing when I did. The narrator goes on to say something not seen on Earth for 65 million years. 65 million years. Well, that number sticks out in our minds because academics has pounded that into your brains to make you correlate 65 million years ago, which is a ridiculously long amount of time. And it says dinosaurs went extinct about 65 million years ago. So they also tell us that there was some sort of a comet appearing in the sky, which was a harbinger of death for most of the world, that wiped out all of the dinosaurs. It actually says here, at a time when there was environmental change resulting from the impact of a large celestial object with the Earth and or from vast volcanic eruptions. So we're also correlating a comet, or something that appears to us to be comet-like, up there in the heavens. But we're not talking about any old regular comet. We're not talking about meteors. We're talking about something that stands above and beyond every celestial object that you have ever been used to, taught, or have heard of. This is the comet, or the comet-like object up in the sky. It's the depressurization point. The very dinosaurs disappeared virtually overnight. Virtually overnight. How does a comet kill all all of life on Earth virtually overnight. You know what I mean? The Earth is pretty gigantic. You'd have to have a comet that was pretty gigantic. And if it was, it probably would just destroy the Earth completely or knock it off of its orbit. There's all kinds of things wrong with the scenario of an actual comet obliterating the Earth and killing all life. That's my opinion, though. All right, let's get into the actual movie. So we go down, and the first thing we see are these suspicious-looking fellows in their jump coats. And they say that there were a few who saw this as more than just a coincidence. So now you're looking at some sort of secretive group there in the mist. And I'm going to come back to that group in a bit. But what I want you to take away from this is that there are those of us in the world that have an understanding, a knowledge, a belief, a feeling, whatever you want to call it. We know that the world is coming to an end. So after looking into it, we have found that it has come to an end many times before. It's not the actual Earth blowing up and it's all gone. It's life as we know it coming to an end. This is a cyclical cataclysm that happens over and over. And because it happens over and over, there are those who retain the knowledge of it. But most didn't. Most people are out there celebrating, having a good time. Everyone's dancing. Everyone's getting drunk and having drinks. This guy's holding up a sign. I love the comet. Oh, it's all good, right? This reflects our mindset in the world that we live in. We are so far removed from an apocalypse as a reality, or even a cyclical, especially a cyclical apocalypse as a reality, that the idea that the world is ending just brings out our base nature, where we want to party and, find the opposite sex and see what's going on and stuff, instead of researching and preparing to survive. Now, we start in with this girl. There's a girl who works in a movie theater, and in the background, they're playing the song that says, "Gazing at the Thing in the Sky." This girl, you're going to see, is playing a video game. It's kind of hard to see right there. So she kind of scrolls up. This is the girl. This is one of the main characters. She's playing this video game right here. It's called Tempest. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but they've zoomed in on this video game many different times. Let me zoom in on, this is the bottom of it here. I just took some screenshots so we can get a better view. This video game that she's playing is called Tempest. It's a real game, but there's a reason why they chose this. Let me get out of there. All right, boom. So there's the Tempest logo down there towards the bottom. They zoom in on her. She's in the virtual world. She's lost in the virtual world. She's trying to beat the game, okay? And she is the protagonist. She's the main character. We're going to learn about her. This is the video game. I want you to take a good look at this. They don't just do this randomly. They choose their props specifically. They have a purpose behind them. This game is not just called The Tempest. It doesn't just have these Fantazoid-like creatures coming at you from like space. On the side, they've got lasers or plasma shooting out. Looks like it's coming, stuff's coming down from the middle of it from the sky there. And then look at this part right here. I want to show you this part. Right at the very front. Wow, this one's got 26 credits. That's a lot of free play. All right, so check out the front, right? It's got a vortex with some sort of star in the middle and all of these beams of plasma shooting out from it. Now, a tempest is a storm, like a hurricane or something. You know what I mean? Does this look like a hurricane to you? No, this is cosmic. So for all of you cosmic horror lovers and fans out there, this is the movie for you. All right, so we cut over to the girl's boss, and he says, "Hey, Regina, give that thing a rest, won't you?" Because she's too busy playing the video game. She, just like Eren in Attack on Titan that we just broke down, she's not really interested in doing all of this work. She doesn't feel fit to have a slave kind of a job. So her boss jumps in and says, "Regina, give that thing a rest." So the main character's name is Regina. Time to do some etymological studies. Let's break down and figure out what Regina means. Regina, a feminine proper name from Latin, literally means queen. It's related to Rex. So reg or rex, that X part at the end, how we say that, used to be rec, like more of a guttural sound in the back. So it branched off and one was Rex, and that turned into some other things like probably Rick and stuff like that. And then Regina became the female version of that, meaning queen, where Rex means king. The Proto-Indo-European root word reg, or reg, to move in a straight line, with derivatives meaning to direct in a straight line, to lead and to rule, to move directly in a straight line, just like the blue beam that shoots up, which is why royalty and wise men of old and wise women of old, or nobility or whatever, that's why their symbol for power is the scepter. That's why it is a staff. That's why it is a magic wand. It's always something that is straight and does not deviate, because the moment you deviate, you don't have a ruler, you have an angel or an angle, right? You have something that has deviated from that straight line. So she represents something that is good. Not just something that is good, but something that is good and deserves to ownership of land, which is what a queen is, right? Well, let's find out if she ends up owning her own land, right? All right, so she says, in a minute, Mel, in a minute. I'm playing this video game. I'm more interested in this than I am my lame real-life job. So Mel is his name. His name means false, bad, or wrong. Just like mal, if you're malnourished, you have bad nourishment. You have false nourishment. If you're malcontent, you're not content, basically, right? So he says, Regina, I want you to clean everything up so we can get out of here. Now, getting out of here, coming from her boss, is symbolic of what the elite would like to do in our world. Her little movie theater she works at is the microcosm of our world at this particular juncture in this movie. They want to get out of here. They want to leave. They don't want to come back. Why is the alert box not working? I'm sorry. I'm getting some donations and stuff, so not sure why the alert box isn't working, so I'm just going to apologize for that in advance, and I'll get that fixed next time. But I'm going to come back and see you guys in the chat and give you a big thanks at the end. All right, so Regina, the woman who is currently working at a slave job, whose birthright indicates that she should own land and be more noble than being a slave, right? He says, I want you to clean everything up, right? You're the slave. Go and clean everything up. As a matter of fact, I want you to take this flashlight and walk the house. Now, he's giving the girl who represents a straight line, a beam of light to go into the movie theater, to walk the house, which represents our world, and to shine the light. This is before the apocalypse. You're saying, okay, that went over my head. You are Regina. You are Rex. You are the kings and queens of the future world should you survive the apocalypse, because you will inherit the world. You will be able to claim whatever land you would like, as you will see in this movie. And before the apocalypse comes, you have the potential for kingship or queenship, or, I don't really like those words, but what I'm saying is you'll be free. You will be free, and you will make your own way of life. You will live according to your own desires. But before that, we shine the light. We go around cleaning house in the dark, right? Like our world is a dark world. It's a dark city because we have that firmament up there blocking out the glory of the heavens and the lights from above. Oh, hey, thank you. Thank you. Who was that? Oh, the name didn't pop up, but it says Mishat. Thank you. So yes, this is her. This is us. It's symbolic of the truth seekers in the world. And she says, Mel, they throw things at me. He's saying, hey, go shine your light in the dark world, being the movie theater, right? He's talking to us, the truth seekers. Go shine your light. And she says, they throw things at me, man. This job's getting old. That's how many of us truth seekers feel. We are the light bearers. Our job, while we're in this dark movie theater, is to go around and shine the light and clean up, basically, right? So that others can see that light, and hopefully it'll light up a path for them. So she goes up to the projection room, and her boyfriend Larry, who is a part-time main character in this movie, says, he's trying to sell this copy of the movie to somebody on the phone, and he says, I'm talking about a mint condition print of It Came from Outer Space, man. That's right. I got it right here. So he's got this film reel of It Came from Outer Space. Another cult classic, by the way. Actually, speaking of cult classics, let me take you back here real quick. I'm pretty sure it says cult classic in the background on this movie right here. Let me zoom in on this. Does that not say right there, cult classic, right? I just noticed that like right before I started. All right, anyways, let me get back to where we were here. All right, she doesn't want to go walk the house because they throw things at her. Her boyfriend Larry is trying to wheel and deal and sell a copy of this movie called It Came from Outer Space in 3D. That's right, man. I got a copy of it. Come pick it up. Now check this out. This is the movie poster for It Came from Outer Space. Another cult classic, another cosmic horror from yesteryear. I love these cheesy kind of cosmic horror movies. First of all, It refers to the event. It refers to the plasma that comes in that people don't even know what it is or how to describe it. So they simply refer to it as it. It can take any shape it wants to because it's a shapeshifter. So it's hard to pin it down with the word descriptor that we call a name. We refer to it as it. And it is the scariest thing that you can conceive of because it can literally be anything that your imagination comes up with. Right? It's described in a million different ways, and it's a shapeshifter, and it's electricity. It can petrify, it can electrify, it can stupefy, it can do all kinds of things, right? But look at the shape of it. Let me zoom in on this for you. Do you remember those sprites we looked at earlier? Doesn't this kind of resemble one of them? Remember how part of the sprite shoots up and the other part shoots down? Just like that, kind of like how this is in the picture. And, of course, you've got the blatant one-eye symbolism. The eye in the sky specifically. Not just one eye, but the eye where it belongs. The eye belongs in the sky because that is the opening of the sky god opening its eye or whatever, right? This is described in many different ways. Here's the French version. Inconos d'un autre monde, I guess. It's a little bit different, but this one's got the eye in the sky. Do you notice how it's got like this? It's not blood. It's not quite blood, but it's this weird red goo type stuff oozing out of it. And then it's got this hand reaching out, right? This is all plasma apocalypse symbolism. It is the sky opening up, the red plasma coming in that's seen as being sort of liquid, gooey, oozing type substance or whatever. And then the hand is the symbolic of the hand of God or the plasma reaching down into our world and literally and figuratively lifting people up, picking people up into the sky. It's not really the plasma that lifts them up. It's the depressurization and the increase of buoyancy due to all of the atmosphere that's lost initially. So people get sucked up into the sky. They're seen as being picked up by the hand of God. We go back to this girl's boyfriend, and he says, she says, if we spend the night here, we're going to miss the comet. So there's a huge comet that's passing by. Everyone knows about it. It's Christmas time. Everyone's outside. They're drinking. They're celebrating. They're looking up at the sky, waiting for this comet to appear. It's a big deal. And they have to stay the night in this projection booth because that's their job. And this guy's trying to sell a copy, and he's got to stay there all night, etc. So he says, it's not like you can't see it on television, You could just watch it on TV, right? She says, yeah, well, maybe I want to see it for real, okay? And he says, hey, television's real. Television's very real. This is the movie giving a little nod to, not everything you see on television is actually what it appears to be when they're actually showing you something that they say is real. He's not talking about fictional stuff real, and they're trying to make a point that the things that appear real on TV quite often are not. Now, we go back to the TV, speaking of which, this guy's down in Times Square or whatever, reporting, and he says, the first Earthlings to see the effects will be in Newfoundland. Or Newfoundland. He purposefully, for the sake of the movie, in the script, mispronounced Newfoundland and pronounced it Newfoundland. Funding for the new land. Interesting. So, Newfoundland, where is that? It's the northernmost part, or one of the northernmost parts of the North America, up there in Canada, basically, right? Very close to Greenland, which, by the way, there's another apocalyptic movie called Greenland. There's a lot of interest in Donald Trump and some other people that want to buy Greenland. And I believe that there's likely, if there's going to be some kind of world war in the future, I have a feeling that it's going to be a fight over who owns the rights to the North Pole. Because the North Pole is the place of safety, and the North Pole is where this stuff happens and goes down, and it's the entrance into the hollows of the earth. Now, this guy says all telecommunications seem to be out in that part of the world, because this is going to be followed by or initiated by an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, which puts out all of the telecommunications in the world. This has happened before. It's called the Carrington event that happened over 100 years ago, where there was this solar electromagnetic storm, and people they didn't have like telephones and stuff back then as popular as we do now. But they did have where you hit the little button and it's like do 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 do, like you do Morse code and stuff, right? I forgot what that's called. But anyway, the electricity was so powerful in the air that the operators back then got shocked. They had to throw off their equipment. Some of the equipment caught fire. It was a huge event, and all communication worldwide was lost for the most part during this Carrington event. Now, one of these guys in the audience says, in 1910, Halley's Comet returned, which, by the way, is pretty close to around the same time. Halley's Comet returned. Everybody thought they were going to die then. Now, I'm going to chime in about comets and how we can predict them, especially things like Halley's Comet, right? I personally see comets as being electromagnetic plasmic phenomena that is seeping out of holes up there, just like how we see like starlight, like the little points of focus. But it may be that whenever those plasma strands or plasma tubes or whatever you want to call them, they're circling around. There's a vortex around our world. They're spiraling, right? And as they spiral, and as that spiral grows and shrinks, there are certain times when those little plasmic branches will hit certain areas on the firmament itself, and some of that may leak in from between the two skies. Anyways, I'll have to do a more in-depth video on my theory on that in the future. So they're all partying. This girl looks up, and lo and behold, electricity galore. These guys are all laughing. Now, do you see this? This is just like in the Black Hole Sun video from Soundgarden, where everyone's laughing at the end of the world. Everyone's having a blast and a good time. A very good reason for that, which the movie is going to reveal some symbolism here towards the end. Everybody looks up. Do you notice the subtitles? Electricity surging. There's a comet. It's a comet passing by, right? What is a comet? Oh, it's like some random rock in space, allegedly that's got some ice, and I guess the ice is like burning off as it gets close to the sun, and you know what I mean? Whatever. What does that have to do with electricity surging? Right? They're making a huge point that the electricity, something's going on electrically. So this concept of the comet, or what they're calling a comet, is directly related to electricity and electric phenomenon. So this girl and her boyfriend are doing their thing, going to bed and flirting and stuff up in the projection booth. And she's like, man, I'm worried somebody's going to see us. And her boyfriend says, see us how? There's no windows. They can't see through walls. Well, Superman can see through walls. Now, this is a reference to Superman, who has ridiculous strength because of our yellow sun, which is no longer yellow. It's blindingly white, which means conditions have changed in just that short amount of time from when Superman was first created and introduced. And the storyline says that he gets his power from our yellow sun to today. Right? Also, Superman is an alien. He's from another world, and he can see through walls. The plasma that comes into our world is alien. It is the thing from outer space, or whatever you want to call it. It from outer space, right? And it can see through walls. Let's go on. He says, not these walls. They're made out of steel. There used to be a fire law. So in this projection booth that they're in, all the walls are metal. They're metallic. That comes into play here shortly. She says Superman can see through steel. Duh, right? Superman can see through steel because he has X-ray vision. There are other types of rays just beyond our sky that we're protected from at the moment. But whenever that barrier goes down during the neutral point of the electromagnetic shift, that means that all of those cosmic rays, like gamma rays and X-rays and other types, they come down. They come into our world. That plasma that comes into our world is, I believe, sentient, and that it is looking to incorporate itself. It is looking to go into a body, into something, because that's its purpose. Its purpose is to power other things. It is power, right? So if it's just power without any way to direct the power, it's just potential, right? Plasma reaches its full potential when it incorporates itself and it goes into a body, giving it a soul or spirit. All right, let's keep going. Anyways, so this comet goes by. All of a sudden, they show you the skyscrapers changing all kinds of weird different colors. There's plasma, this magenta colors up there in the sky. Everything's turning purple and magenta and pinks and reds. The whole crowd that was just partying and stuff, they're all starting to go quiet. They're all looking up at the sky. This reminds me of a biblical prophecy that I will read to you. And I take this very seriously, although I am not, of any type of one religion or anything. I would like to still read this, if I can get it here. But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of the heavens, but the Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and they were drinking, they were marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then 2 men will be in a field, one will be taken and the other one will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and the other one will be left. So the reason I wanted to share this with you is because the Bible predicts that people will stop caring about the cyclical cataclysms that happen to this world for different reasons. One of those reasons listed is just purely the length of time that passes between them. It starts to slip away from the people's memories and they become complacent. Now, all of a sudden, the day and the hour has arrived. Everyone's in the middle of being carefree. They have not prepared. They are out there caught unaware. And this woman, watch what she does. She's grabbing her face. She was looking up at the comet. Now all of a sudden she's having some kind of, looks like pain in her eyes or behind her eyes or something. This is what happens. The world becomes depressurized. When you have rapid depressurization, it instantly affects your sinuses. So what happens, a precursor to the other things that are introduced post-apocalypse, like, for example, telepathy, and like other supernatural types of powers, is what they call the psychic nosebleed, right? So many of you who watch Stranger Things are probably used to this. When 11 uses her power, she gets this nosebleed. It's because it's symbolic that the pressure is rapidly being released from this world, and the pressure that is inside of our skull all of a sudden is experiencing a vast difference between the outside pressure and the inside pressure. It's not used to it. So eardrums can be ruptured. People can get nosebleeds. They can actually even bleed from the eyes themselves if it's bad enough. Pardon me. Now let's take a look at the city. This is interesting. So the whole sky has now turned red. This is the next day. We're going to find out what happened to all those revelers and partiers. But this is a city, and they show you that the entire sky has changed and turned red. We associate red skies with the apocalypse, although I can't see any reason why the mainstream would ever do that, except for the fact that we collectively keep the idea of a red sky as associated with an apocalyptic event, because that is the reality. The reality is the sky turns red after an apocalypse, and then after the next one, it turns blue again, right? Now let's take a closer look at this particular scene here. Oh, it was a different freeway. All right, never mind. I'll come back to the freeway. All right, so they keep on showing us and making a huge point. They show a lot of street lights in this movie too, and almost every single one of them is red. They're showing you the red lights, and they're showing you that after the apocalypse, at least this particular one, the sky changes color. And as you can see by looking at the buildings, the light that is reflected off of any object underneath that atmosphere follows suit. It also changes color. Our entire color spectrum will change if the sky changes color itself. And then also I would like to say that the light comes from the sky, not from the sun. Our sky right now is black. It's not blue. It's not any. That's why when the sun goes away, it's dark. Okay, the sky is dark. We live in Dark City. But whenever that light and the energy reverses and shoots upward instead of coming down at us from the point of focus, the entire sky will be lit up, allowing us to see the glory of the heavens from a different perspective. It will be revealed to us instead of being hidden from us. Now, on the radio, it says "It Came Upon a Midnight Clear" is playing on a car radio. That's a church hymn. That's an old church hymn, actually about the apocalypse. It's about the return. It's about all of these people that are trying to find refuge in places of safety during an apocalyptic event when Jesus comes back, according to the religion. Now they show you this car. It's an empty car. They show you stuff like this all the time. Oh, there's nobody in the world. Everyone's gone. Okay, it's the apocalypse. It's kind of like I Am Legend or, something like that. And then they say, from angels bending near the earth. The angels are like those sprites. Okay, they're plasmic phenomenon for the most part. At least that's one type of an angel. There's also the aliens. I want to focus on this though. Remember whenever we did Uncharted and we zoomed in on that one car and we're like, why did they put this particular car with this particular symbol, right? This symbol represents the plasma volcano, the unfinished pyramid, if you will, and the beam shooting out of it, touching the arch of the sky. It represents excellence. It represents everything good and pure. It represents the highest point. It represents the pinnacle. It represents surviving and victory and all of these other things, and that's why they're showing it to you. All right, so then we have electricity surging once more. I think it's interesting that they show you these types of devices because I believe we have constructed this type of electrical technology as an after effect of what we have seen in the spiritual realm. What am I saying? I'm saying that when the sky turns red and our world is filled with electricity, or aka magic once again, we are able to see the tree of life in all of its splendor and glory and the forms that electricity tends to take. So what we have done here on the opposite end of the spectrum, in a different time, in a different world, essentially, is we have mimicked the physical container for those shapes to more easily allow the electricity to pass through. All right, I'm kind of rambling now, so let's move on. My bad. All right, so then they show you a clown. They zoom in on this clown. This clown has zero to do with the movie. It just happens to be a prop, a little side prop. They zoom in on it just to show you, like, oh, the electricity is working. There's this animatronic clown for what looks like a car lot. What is this? Brake and alignment. Fiat brake and alignment. Okay, some kind of car place, right? They show you the clowns because the clowns are why people are... Okay, the reason that people are afraid of clowns, they have legitimate fears of these happy characters, right? The reason that it creeps us out is because there is an archetype. There's a quintessential clown archetype that is scary, that we have reason to fear. They're also known in another cheesy sci-fi sort of pseudo-cosmic horror called Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Okay, when those bipedals, those alien creatures, those angelic creatures, whatever you'd like to call them, giants, when they come down during this event, which is the only time they're allowed to, which is when, people assume that that was a planet and they jumped off that planet or whatever, and they come down, right? They look like this. This is a cartoonified version. First of all, they end up putting on and developing and making for themselves very long collars, clothing that is very long, because they don't do sunlight. Okay, they are photophobic, as are all of these things. That's why vampires, that's why they have pale white skin, just like that. And whenever the sunlight touches them, they burn, which is just exactly why the sunlight burns so many monsters in so many movies, and why they're all afraid of the sunlight, because they're not used to it. They're from space, where they don't have a big flashlight pointing in their face all of the time, and God is not trying to burn them with a magnifying glass, symbolically speaking, right? They live out there in an amber glow in the Elysian fields, where everything is beautiful and colorful, not under a big bright white light that's hot and burning everybody. Anyway, that's where the killer clown symbolism comes into play. This interesting that they chose to put this whole fiat brake service thing in there. So I looked up the word fiat, and it says a formal authorization or a proposition, also known as a decree. Is my mic too loud? Am I good? I feel like maybe the mic's a tad loud. Hopefully not. Anyways, I feel it's interesting that they included a word, fiat, that means a decree or a formal decree. And then they show this clown in association with it. Basically saying that the clowns from outer space, the jokers from outer space, or whatever you want to use, are the ones that institute the fiats or the fiat or the decrees. They come into this world and they give out laws and they start trying to take control and stuff, right? At least every other apocalypse. I believe now they're going to, all of the elites are going to try to leave. All right, let's move on in the movie. Now, what happened to all the revelers? What happened to all the partiers? What's going on? We see a bunch of clothing and dust. Red dust all over the place. Now, those of you who are more along the Christian mindset and believe in the rapture, that's probably what you're going to see when you look at this, right? Although the movie makes it very clear that this has nothing to do with like Jesus or any religion in particular, but this is some sort of scientific event. This is nature that is responsible for this, essentially. So these people's bodies are gone, but their clothes are left behind. And all we have of evidence that they ever even existed is this dust. They have turned themselves, or they themselves have turned into sand. And they show you this all across the way. Now, I believe that there's a lot of fact that hides in the back of the mind collectively, in our subconscious across humanity, that we remember these types of images. Somewhere back there, we can recall a time when people seemed to just disappear. When you looked around outside and all you saw was people's clothing and a lot of sand and a lot of dust and stuff. So the story takes shape depending upon your perspective and how you were raised and how you experienced life. Here's another suggestion: spontaneous human combustion. Let me read this particular story to you. On the 15th of September, 1982, Janine Safin eventually wrapped into flames while sitting on a chair. Her father, who was the witness of this incident, says he saw flash light come out of his eyes in the corner and hands. She covered into flames and didn't cry or move even. While investigation, police found no reason of Janine's combustion. There was no sign of burning in the house except Janine's body. The cause of her death is still unknown. And there's many different examples of this where human beings have spontaneously exploded, combusted, however you'd like to see it. And I believe electricity is number one on my culprit list, especially if it's as strong as the electricity that is out there circling our world, waiting, biding its time to come in and ground itself. That type of electric charge can petrify. And if you read all of the old stories where there was these creatures that were shocked and then became petrified, typically, right? Usually giants and ogres and things like that. They didn't always just turn into statues. Oftentimes they exploded. And it's because the bonds, the actual chemical bonds in their body that makes up their organism and their body, they expand too quickly. If it's a loose bond, right? Or if it's a really tight bond that's created, they solidify, they turn into stone. Now, here's number two, right? Number two, we've got a tempest, a world storm that is kicking up, blowing hurricane force winds all around the world. You combine that with an increase in buoyancy worldwide from the atmosphere spilling out, increasing the buoyant force underneath us, and you have all of the world's dust everywhere, all of the sand and loose gravel and stuff getting swept up into a world storm that you would just think you're just stuck in like a local tornado or something. But this is something that happens on a worldwide scale, kicking up all of the world's dust into the air and mixing it together with new chemicals. Different things are actually created in that soup up there in the sky during this event. All right. Oh, this is also the symbolism for the Sandman. Let's talk about the Sandman, because I'm going to do a Sandman video. So the Sandman cometh, the Sandman enters in, and the Sandman is known for sprinkling his little pixie dust or magic sand and there is a correlation between an abundance of sand or dust or whatever and people getting really tired and falling asleep and having these extravagant dreams, almost like they're in a trance. That's the power of the Sandman. The Sandman is akin... Well, let me read this. It says, he's said to put people to sleep and to bring good dreams by sprinkling magic into people's eyes at night. And that's why they say when you wake up with a little sleep in your eye, that's some of the sand residue or whatever. All right, we go back to the boyfriend in the movie, right? We go back to the boyfriend. They spent the night in the projection room. Now, the projection room is surrounded by metal. Why would that save them if there was just a comet passing by, right? A comet could easily just crush metal or whatever because it wasn't a comet. Not in how we think of it. So this guy goes to answer the door. Somebody's banging on the door. Opens up the door. You can see the red light starting to shine in on his face. And brah, zombie. Not just any old zombie. This zombie has a wrench. He's a mod zombie. Mod zombie. He's the moderator zombie. So this zombie pops out of nowhere. Totally surprises this guy. Beats him in the head with a wrench. And cleans house. As mod zombies should. I probably have some mod zombies in my chat, which is fine with me. Thank you for helping out and for cleaning up. I want you to take a look at this movie poster, though, right where he was killed. Does it show it there? Let's zoom in on this movie poster. Now, we've already had one call out to one movie, which was It Came from Outer Space, right? Look at this one. Red Dust, right? Clark Gable and Jean Harlow star in Red Dust. You think that they just put that particular poster there by accident? Or maybe it was purposeful because it gives context to a message that is being spoken to us by what we call a movie. All right, we go back to the arcade in the movie theater where Regina is looking around. Oh, look at the lyrics to the song that are being played in the captions. It says, "You've got to have a strong heart if you want our love to survive." Now, take out the our love part, and basically the movies are saying you have to have a strong heart if you want to survive. First, there's a lot of heart attacks. The Bible actually predicts that people's hearts will just fail them. They will just have a heart attack. They're so freaked out. They're so scared that they just die instantly. We don't have a lot of powerful energy in the world today, so most people are very weak. They have weak hearts. It says you have to have a soul of fire to keep our love alive, or to keep yourself alive. You see there's a Christmas tree there, right? Interesting that they make these movies happen around Christmas time, the winter solstice, and the summer solstice when they didn't have to, right? Gremlins, for example, is a Christmas catastrophe movie. Didn't have to be. Doctor Who always has some sort of Christmas Day catastrophe where the world is threatened to come to an end. Now, you see the sign there. It says Merry Christmas, the Midnight Comet Show. It's always the middle of the night. It's the darkest part of the night because all of the lights turn out. The stars go out. The sun goes out if you're in the part of the world that has daylight. And the moon also turns out or turns blood red. This is where she works, at El Rey. So Regina, which means queen, works at El Rey, which is the name of the movie theater. Rey is the same as Rex. It means king, right? It's just, in French, it would be roi or roy, R-O-Y, R-O-I, etc. It means the king. It means, so she's now leaving out of that area that, she's used to as being basically her home, and she's opening herself up to a brand new world, a whole new world. And she's locked out. So that's why she's out there running around. The reason that she's locked out and they don't allow her to go back in there is because that represents the world that she just came from. That represents, inside of that movie theater, represents our world. That's the world she's used to, where she's a slave. Now, the apocalypse has come and gone, and she is now going to, the world will be bequeathed unto her, which means it will be given to her. She is a survivor, and now there are no rules. Now she is the rule maker. She's the queen. You also see that there's an Eiffel Tower thing over there. That's kind of interesting too. I just thought I'd point that out. Little Eiffel Tower dry cleaning services, right? The Eiffel Tower, it's not just a decoration. It's got to do with electromagnetics. So she tries another door. She's locked out. You can't go back, okay? If you stay here and the sky turns red and you see the blue beam shoot up, that's it. You're staying here until next time, okay? There's a lot of good news that comes with that too, like extended lifespans and superpowers, what we would call superpowers, and many other things, right? But if you stay here, you're going to be stuck in here, because once that door shuts, it's locked. Or as the Bible says, what God closes, let no man open, or no man can open, right? And she's like, I am no man. And she opens the door, right? If it was the Lord of the Rings. Anyway, so she finds the zombie mod wrench and the zombie and the mod zombie. So this mod zombie comes out, and look at this behind it. Look at the graffiti. Entertainment or death. That's interesting. So the mod zombie comes out. He's not like your average zombie, though. He speaks, right? Some movies do have zombies that talk. This is one of them. He says, come here. Now, wait a minute. Most zombies, we just see, they just go, or whatever, right? They just kind of moan. There will be a resurrection of the dead. The spirit that fills this world is a ghost apocalypse. If you're a Ghostbusters fan, okay, it's a spirit apocalypse, which gives way and leads to a zombie apocalypse, where those spirits, like I said, the plasma, the electromagnetics, they want to incorporate themselves. They want to find a body. They want to bring things to life. They want to live, essentially, right? They want to drive. They want to be in the driver's seat. Anyway, so they find bodies, dead bodies, alive bodies. It doesn't matter. They want to possess whatever they can possess. They will possess toys. They will possess cars. They will possess robots. They will possess people and animals and probably plants too for a time. Anyway, the dead come back to life. This guy is a zombie. He's the dead brought back to life. Now, does this mean that he was going around killing people with wrenches before he was brought back to life? I'm assuming no. On my end, right? I'm assuming that he was some sort of worker, and that this jumpsuit is a part of his regular job, and that the wrench is probably a part of his regular job. But when that energy came in and possessed his body, it was no longer him when he came back to life. So be careful. Those people who you think might be your dead mother or brother or father or cousin or whatever might not be. It might just be their bodies. So be careful of that. There will be a zombie apocalypse. Regina proceeds to whoop this dude with some awesome kung fu type moves, jump on a motorcycle, and takes off. Now, we show you the red sky once again. They're going to show you the red sky all throughout the movie. What they're trying to say is that, like, the Earth is in the tail of this, I guess, red comet. And so our sky is red or whatever. That's also very similar to the Purple Dawn theory, right? There's a great website out there that's something like the Saturn Death Cult and like the Purple Dawn or something. I can't remember what it is, but it's great. It's a really good website. I strongly recommend checking it out. They got books and stuff too. But the theory is that our sky used to be purple and that we were sort of in the tail of like Saturn because it had like a comet tail and all this stuff. I don't agree with that, but I believe that there's a grain of truth there, that our sky changes colors. All right, so they show you the red lights, the red sky symbolism some more. The streets are all empty, so people that survive, this is you. This is why the movies show us that people wake up in the post-apocalyptic world and there's like the streets are empty, there's nobody around. Where are they, right? They were sucked up into space. They're gone. They were eaten by Kronos. They were raptured by Jesus. However you want to see it, there's an event that happens that takes people away. Gone. Not just killing them, not just like, oh, it's really bad down here. Oh, stuff's falling on us. Then you would have dead bodies everywhere, right? But in this case, it's like people have disappeared. Don't we have ancient civilizations worldwide, all across time, that have just mysteriously disappeared and nobody knows where they went to? Are you serious? Yes, there is an event that sucks people away and takes them away. All right, so this girl's on the motorcycle. She's flying through, trying to figure out what's going on. She has no idea, right? She spent the night in the movie theater. I'll tell you why she survived, okay? Remember they said that the walls were lined with metal? She stayed the night in a Faraday cage, which was what I suggest quite often if you know how to make one. It's not a guarantee, but the odds are way better that you won't get hit by any type of electricity, because what a Faraday cage does is if you're surrounded by metal and that metal is grounded, then the electricity will hit the metal, travel all the way around, not touching you inside of it, and it'll ground itself and go through the ground. You're safe from it. So that's why that she was able to survive this event. It wasn't a comet smashing into the earth. It was electricity in the form of some sort of cosmic display in the sky that looked to them like a comet. So she runs back home to try to find her sister. Her sister's name is Samantha. Let's find out what Samantha means. Let's do some etymological studies. It says it may have originated in America in the 18th century as a combination of the Hebrew name Samuel, meaning God has heard, or name of God. It's closer to name of God, Shem-U-El. Shem means name, U means of, and then El typically means God. And the Greek word anthea. So, Samanthea is what they are trying to say, which means a flower or a blossom. That's very interesting too, because I see a lot of the blossom flower symbolism, because that hole that opens up in the sky is seen as a rose that creates other types of shapes underneath it as well, or a carnation or other types of flowers, usually pink or red flowers. Okay, anyways, let's keep going forward. So here is Samantha. Samantha is totally repping the stars and the stripes, and then the stripes underneath the stars, because the stars appear to fall to the ground, right? The Bible says that the stars will fall to the earth. So either the Bible is wrong or academics is wrong, because academics, you can't have all the stars fall to the earth. You know what I mean? That would just end everything. That would be the end of all of the universe or whatever. That would just be it. And why would they do that? I don't know. The stars are not what we've been taught. But anyways, she's also wearing the shirt that says Rebels. And her shirt has stars on it. So we've got the stars and the stripes, which indicate falling stars or fallen angels. And then her shirt corroborating that, giving us more context as to what the movie's trying to convey to us. Rebels, stars, falling stars, the fallen angels, etc. Those who deviate against whatever system is put in place at the time, right? Interesting. All right, so the two sisters meet up. There's a wreath back there too. The wreath symbolism is just the eye in the sky, the hole in the sky, that is seen as bringing back Mother Nature. After you see the eye in the sky, we have gigantic growth. The sky turns red. All of the vegetation in the world shoots up and just grows to gigantic proportions. So we symbolize that by making a ring out of nature. And that's one of the things that we put up during that holiday season when the apocalypse is supposed to come. And we're supposed to be not celebrating, but hiding, essentially, and trying to change our vibrations to be good and stuff like that. That's also where the Christmas tree comes into play too, but it's a different symbol. All right, so the sister, Samantha, says, I ran away last night after my mom slugged me, or my stepmom slugged me. I left a note and everything. But I didn't have any place to go, so I spent the night in a lawn storage shed. So she survived by spending the night in a little house, a little shed made out of metal, in a Faraday cage as well. A lot of times, movies like this, they will cut to these types of shots. Obviously, you see a pretty girl or whatever, and they're showing her with basically her legs kind of spread a little bit, and it almost kind of gives you the impression that she's naked. That's to distract you from what is being said in the movie, okay? This is the best truths. I was sharing this with my son. Shout out to my little boy. I was sharing this with him earlier, that we have to be careful about these things, because the best truths are shared in story form. The reason for that is that the people who the truth is not meant for example, I don't want everybody in the entire earth knowing about the plasma apocalypse, because I don't want everybody to survive. That's me personally. I'm being honest. I don't want everybody to survive. There's messed up, evil, dark, unbalanced, unhealthy people out there that I really don't think should procreate and survive and make it into the next world. I want the best. I want happy people. I want good people. That's just me. Maybe I'm being selfish. I don't know, but I could understand if others might feel the same way, right? So my point is, there are people out there that should not know or don't deserve to know, right? And so to them, when they're told the story, they'll just be entertained. They want entertainment or death. That's all. Like they are robots. They go according to the program, and they like to turn off to rest from time to time. And that rest is what we call entertainment, which is why you and I are not watching this movie. We are studying this movie. We're breaking down these clues that we have given and left to ourselves. All right. So the man on the radio says, unbelievable. That was song number 16 on the survey this week. Unbelievable was the name of the song. Every single song they play in the movies coincides with what is happening in the movie. And the song itself is giving you, the watcher, the studier, the researcher, or the one who's amused mindlessly, it's giving you more context as to the secret message that the movies are giving to us. And all movies are giving you a secret message. Or I should say all movies are giving you a message, but to some it's veiled. And to others, it's not. So it's unbelievable. Why is the song called Unbelievable? Because this sister right here just survived the apocalypse, the cheerleader, but she has no idea that she even went through the apocalypse. Just like I have talked about in the past, some people will be in just the right place and just the right time. Some people will literally sleep through the apocalypse, wake up the next morning, have no idea that anything bad even happened at all, and they feel like they're on a different planet or in another world. So she does not believe it when her sister Regina says, hey, the world has ended. Nobody's around. It's unbelievable. The song that is being played is unbelievable. What the movie is telling you, in addition to the fact that movies are telling you the truth, is that the radio, the songs, the music also is sharing with you a particular soundtrack for truth seekers to pick up on. They're sharing truths with us through the music as well. However, some people don't understand that, and they just hear that it's all veiled in symbolism and allegory and metaphor, so they think it's all secretive and evil, and they're hiding it in plain sight, and there's nothing of value there. It's all satanic, etc. If you're one of those people, okay, fine. All right, so now we meet this Eric Estrada-looking dude. He says, my name's Hector. Hector, let's check out Hector's name. Hector means a holder or a stayer, somebody who holds or protects or defends, and thus they stay in one place. An agent noun from arcane, which means to hold or to possess. To have, to hold, to possess, to stay in one spot, to protect, to defend, etc. That's what Hector means. All right, let's just move on with that. He says, I spent the night in the back of my truck with the girl that I picked up. So he's in the back of his truck, which is, I'm assuming, like a covered truck. And like I said, if this happens to you, you can remember a place of safety will be any car, any truck, any vehicle, because they are all Faraday cages. Okay? That's why in the movie Back to the Future, that's why the car gets hit by lightning. Marty McFly is totally fine, and then he wakes up in some other time and world and stuff, right? It's not that he actually traveled through time, it's that he survived the apocalypse. All right, so this the cheerleader girl, sister, she gets on they're at a radio station right now, right? And they're trying to look for survivors and stuff because they heard the radio playing. Turns out the radio is just on a loop. And they've got this hotline here. And so she says, call 555 hits. She's pretending to be the DJ. It's supposed to be kind of funny, but somebody actually calls in. Now, let's address 555. In the movies, you may have seen this a billion different times, that they don't have regular phone numbers. They always have 555-1212 or whatever the number is, right? I'm going to tell you how 555 is actually equal to 666. It's symbolic. I'll show you. So the number 5 in Roman numerals is written and represented by the letter V, as you can see here. I, 2 I's, 3 I's, an I and a V, and then finally the number 5 itself is a V. Now, the letter V in Hebrew and ancient Phoenician is represented by the Vav, the 6th number in the Hebrew and Phoenician alphabet. The Vav is equal to V, or 5. 3 5s in a row is 3 Vavs in a row. 3 Vavs in a row is equal to 3 6s in a row. It's very interesting symbolism. You can actually see the 3 V's all over the place if you start to open your eyes. Now, if the 3 V's represent actually 3 Vavs or 3 6s, then turning them upside down would represent the opposite of 3 6s, which would be, I'll show you here in a minute, lambda, lambda, lambda. The good guys, the lambs, the tri-lambs, the L. Lamb is L. The L, right? 11, the L, the leaders. And they're all nerds. They're all goofballs. They're all rejects, just like me, just like many of you out there. Interesting symbolism. We also have, obviously, Volkswagen. There's all kinds of different triple Vav symbolism. I'm not going to bore you with all of them. All right. Oh, Slipknot has this crazy song called... Hold on. Let me zoom in on this real quick so you can check this out. Oh, hold on. I gotta make it bigger. Look, check this out. Look at the name of this song. 555 to the 666. Slipknot literally has a song about this. Like I said, they drop us these same breadcrumbs in our music. All right, back to the movie. So the cheerleader's on the phone. What was her name? Samantha. And she says, I'll be taking requests from all of you teenage Comet zombies on the hit line. What does a comet have to do with zombies? You know what I mean? How could a comet even trigger zombieism or anything? It's not a comet. We're not talking about a comet. That's why this movie does not show you a comet anywhere in it. All right, so she's picking up the phone, and she's not expecting anybody to call in, and all of a sudden, the call-in light lights up. Now, we go to the place where the call was put in, and all her friends are like, who called in? Who called in? But I guess she hung up or something, and she's trying to remember who it was, some other survivor, what they said. So they're like, what'd they say? What'd they say? And they show you this shot, and she's over there explaining, well, they said that they were like part of like a think tank or like a research group or something. So essentially, she took a call from this group of survivors, an entire organization that's represented by this symbol that I'll show you here in just a bit. And there's a sort of this Area 51 looking like bunker place, some sort of government type of agency or something that looks like it, right? So they called in. Here are the government workers. Here, I don't know if they're government, but there's some sort of group or secret agency or secret society or something, and they have been preparing for this day. They've known about it. Like we talked about at the beginning of the movie, some people knew that this was going to happen. Now, let's take a look at their logo. If you look at this patch on this guy's shoulder, you can see it's a maze. So whoever they are, whatever entity this is, they are represented by a labyrinth, by a maze, which is more context for the message that's being given to us. Now, the maze is this world. The maze is the maze of our world, where the walls are constantly changing, the mountains, the terrain, the geography, everything's constantly changing. And this guy's talking to his buddy there, and they're down underground in this secret laboratory area. And he says, I don't think they'll wander far as long as it's operating. And then this girl, who is a part of their teams, they say, Dr. Carter, I'd just like to say up front that I'm opposed to this. What is she opposed to? There is no reason for us to bring those people or any other survivors back here. Back here would be a place of refuge. Back here would be a place of safety. And there's a maze that's represented by this place of refuge where they work. The center of the maze, in the middle, is the place where you need to get to, which is the place of refuge, the place of safety. They want to bring survivors back here, but it's not for the right reasons. They're not trying to save humanity or anything, as you'll see towards the end of the movie. Now, this one girl, she's opposed to it. This is also the story of the Anunnaki. This is also the story of the ancient giant gods and the angels versus the fallen angels and stuff. They had fights. They had meetings about what to do about humanity in general. And sometimes there was disagreements, strong disagreements on the bias of morals, right? So this girl's opposing. She's saying, I'm not for this whole mission that we're on, bringing people back here. And at first you might think that she's like the bad guy because she doesn't want to help to save, the humans and bring them to the safe place or whatever. But why are they bringing them back there? We'll find out. Ultimately, there's nothing left but calcium dust. Rockefeller, hey, what's up? Welcome to my channel. So there's nothing left of these people but calcium dust. Why calcium? That's an interesting one, right? Why not carbon? Why not something else that is also in our body, or sodium or something, right? It's calcium, which comes mostly from our bones. So we have all of these people that look like they spontaneously combusted out of nowhere. A trail of dust is left in the wake, and then that dust turns out to be pure calcium, which comes from the bones inside of our body. Calcium, now this gets a lot into, there's different chemical elements, and I have done various presentations when I'm talking about the plasma apocalypse and the chemical romance that happens up in the sky. There's all kinds of new chemicals and gases and stuff that are introduced, mixed together, and we get an influx of all kinds of new chemicals and elements. So it's interesting that they talk about calcium and how calcium is directly related to the bone structure inside of us. Our bones release calcium to the rest of the body. That calcium, under the right conditions, when mixed with carbon, becomes calcium carbonate, which can explode, essentially, right? Anyways, all right, so we go back to Samantha, and she says, they said to be careful on the street because some people were exposed to the comet a little bit, and like they're dangerous. Okay. Again, I beg the question, right? I know some people would say, oh, it's just a movie. They can make up whatever they want for the movie, for the story. Okay, but it also needs to touch base a little bit with us here in the real world, right? Comets can't just trigger people to turn into zombies that I know of. You know what I mean? But this comet-like entity has the ability to because of the byproducts, okay? So, just like you hear the Doors. What's a door? It's a portal, right? Up there in the sky. The Doors sing a song, and it's called Riders on the Storm. The people who ride around from storm to storm, hopping around from world to world, traveling and sliding through the fractalverse as jumpers. And in the song Riders on the Storm, they say there's a killer on the road. His brain is squirming like a toad. And basically, like, you should be careful about the strangers that you see in the post-apocalyptic world, because many of them are plasma possessed, as I like to call it. They have lost their minds and follow only their basic instincts for a time. All right, so the girl, the cheerleader, she's driving away, and there's some cops on motorcycles right behind her. And she's like, cops? Oh, man, where were you guys earlier? You know, we needed your help. Zombie cop! Oh, my God, it's a zombie cop. Oh, my, okay. It's getting a little weird now. Maybe she'll survive. The zombie cop rips her face off, and she's sleeping. Oh, my God. She woke up from a bad dream. Oh, my God. So she's kind of freaking out. Her heart's beating. She's starting to dream about the apocalypse and the things that she will see. She has not seen a zombie yet. She will see zombies, though. She's dreaming about it, right? The movies are telling you that your dreams will and do predict things. So, because she just had such a terrible dream, she goes over to the bathroom. She wants to splash some water on her face. There is a little moment where she's, pretty much taking off all of her clothes and stuff. And while she does this, the zombie cop again, it comes up behind her. He takes out a switchblade, right? And he's like, this is for your stepmom, you little punk. And he's about to just jam her. Oh my God. She wakes up again. Sam, it was only a dream. Double zombie cop dream. Got me, totally got me. Anyways, all right, so we go back to the secret hideout where these suspicious types with the maze patch are doing their research. They're a bunch of researchers, right? Exactly how it is described of the Anunnaki, who had allegedly came down from the planet Nibiru at just the right time, that had an elliptical orbit, etc., who were geneticists, among other things. And this girl is trying to remember some sort of a code to her computer that she logs into, I'm assuming, all the time, right? Something that she should remember. She goes, what's the code? She tries to put it in. There's an error. So she starts to write down and take some notes. Acceleration, loss of memory. But look at how she spelled memory, right? She knows that she spelled that wrong. So what does she do? She tries to write it again, but this time she's actually writing it even worse than the first time she wrote it. Look at the R. It looks like an L, memol, She can't write. She's starting to lose her memories, which is a part of the plasma apocalypse. There are various conditions that attribute to memory loss worldwide. There's a whole list of them, and I've done videos on it. But the fact remains that one of the byproducts of the plasma apocalypse that I have seen, and one of the reasons why many of us cannot bring it to the forefront of our recollection, is because there is a forgetting. There is a forgetting worldwide. There is a collective amnesia that happens for various reasons, and and all you add a bunch of years and decades to that, it's only going to amplify, right? So people wake up in the post-apocalyptic world with no memory of who they are or what they're doing here or how to spell and how to do simple things like that. All right, let's move on. So they're hanging out at the cop car, and the cheerleader girl's like, I'm getting a rash or something too. I believe that the rash, she alludes to this rash, and I guess, before people become zombies or something, I guess maybe they get a rash. The movie didn't really indicate that, but I would say that the rash comes from the chemical elements and the clouds of various newborn gases that are introduced into this world that can create boils and cause your skin to itch and have rashes, and it can burn and all kinds of different things. That's the bad chemicals. There's also some happy chemicals floating around, which we'll talk about too. So what do? It's the apocalypse. There's nobody around, a couple of teenage girls. They go to the mall. They live it up because they realize, oh my God, why are we freaking out? We should be celebrating right now. So they celebrate because the world is theirs. They can go to the mall. They can scavenge through everything. They can take the very best. It is no longer the elite and those who are in that pyramid that can get access to all of the best stuff and all the good stuff, right? They want organic food? Boom, go to the store. Go get it. It's free. You want really nice clothes? It's all free. It's all yours. You have now inherited the entire world, or at least, parts your path that you walk. There's going to be other survivors, and they'll feel like they all inherited the world too. So they're celebrating for a time, which is why we have New Year's, which is why we have the 4th of July, which is why we shoot off fireworks and we're celebrating and stuff, because we survived. We made it through the apocalypse. So, and they're celebrating right next to the Christmas tree, which is symbolic of the blue beam shooting up from the sky, which we've talked about and covered in many of my videos. So they put on all the nicest stuff. They're super happy. They're like, man, this is actually good news. I love this because they're apocalyptimists. They're looking at the good side of the end of life as we know it. They're not just all doom and gloom and like, oh no, death and everyone died. There is a time for that. There is a time for mourning for all of mankind. As a matter of fact, in Jewish holy days, they have a time period that is instructed for the people to mourn the advanced death that would happen in a future apocalypse. I believe it's called Yom Kippur. All right, so now we zoom into this creepy dude who's in the mall, and he's actually spying on them, right? So these are just some other survivors out there. Just because you're good and you survive does not mean that all the bad people are gone, right? I know many people jump to that conclusion and they like to think that all the bad people are gone, but that does not mean that that's the case. I believe that many good people will remain, but there is always a remnant. This time, in the world we live in, we are the remnant. We're the remnant of the good. We're the blue beamers, the blue blazers, whatever you want to call it. We're the spiritually inclined. We're the awakened ones. We are the illuminated, etc. We are the family, the tribe, the lost tribe of the tree of life. But there is a remnant of bad guys in the next apocalypse. So here's the bad guys. They got guns and stuff. So they go in there and they start shooting up the place. Now, I don't know if you could see this, and this is kind of funny. This is why I want to point this out. But you see the girl, Stephanie, back there? She's about to chuck a shoe at the guys with the guns. All right. She's actually trying to distract them so that her sister, Regina, has a gun, can shoot them. But she's going to shoe bomb them from behind. They turn around and they're like, blah! But she's fine because she hides behind a couch. So she's okay. Right? In the movies, that's totally fine. You could just... Couches, I guess, reject bullets or something. Anyway, so these government-looking suspicious types get off of their plane. They show you the maze, the circular maze, right? And it's not one of those mazes where you begin on one end and you end on the other. It's always you begin on the outside and you go to the middle. That's the most important kind of maze when it comes to world symbolism revealed to us in the movies. These guys get out of the helicopter. The bad guys are in the mall chasing after her, trying to get her. They capture her, and then they hold her hostage. But her sister grabs Eminem, or whoever the heck this dude is, and she holds him hostage. And she's like, let go of my sister or the rapper is going to get capped or whatever. And Eminem's begging for his life. The crazy dude is up there and he's like, I'm not crazy. I just don't give a fuck or whatever, which is actually exactly what Eminem says is one of his songs. Now, let's take a look at this dude. I'm going to call him Willie because that's what it says on his little blazer here. See that? Willie. That is interesting that they chose to call this guy Willie. Let's do some word searching. Will. I'm going to make this a little bigger so everybody can see it. All right. Old English. Villain, to wish, to desire, to be willing. Essentially, it comes from the word will. Willie means my will, right? This is where we get, the old word was villain. This is where we get the word villain from. A villain is somebody who exercises their own will against the will of others, essentially, right? Somebody that does as they wish, whatever they want to, do as they will, and they do. So they're seen as the villains, or those of the will, or those who resist the mainstream because of their own will. They choose not to, right? It's really interesting word study on that one. All right. Now, the bad guy, Will, or Willie, One-Eyed Willie, right, from Pirates of the Caribbean. Usually any character that's named Will is going to deviate from the main path in the movies. I've seen that. Because they go according to their own agenda, their own will. They're usually like somebody that's not following the flow of things. In Indiana Jones, there was a girl named Willie, right, the singer. And she's the girl that had to reach in through all the bugs and stuff and pull that switch or whatever. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. All right, so the bad guys take him to the bad guy leader, who's this dude with the sunglasses, and he says, I'm talking about you coming here and ripping us off. And you see this guy. He looks like one of the aliens in a dark city, right? Because this is how they look. They're pasty, pale, almost albino-looking, white-skinned beings that have an aversion to light. So they dress in very long clothing with huge collars and big hats and sunglasses, and they carry umbrellas and stuff around because they don't want to get touched by that stuff. They say, why, just a few days ago, we were only stock boys. You came here and ripped us off. And then we get a sweet close-up of the suspicious looking fellow, and you can see that he's sort of human, but his eyes are starting to change shape, right? So if you didn't look at that and you couldn't see his actual eyes back there, you would think that he just had huge alien eyes in the dark, which is interesting. So this is sort of them cartoonifying those alien creatures, those killer clowns from outer space, whatever you would like to call them, that arrive. And he says, you wouldn't believe what we want from you. You wouldn't believe it in your worst nightmare. And you wouldn't. You probably would not believe what these entities and creatures want from you, because we believe we're at the top of the food chain. We think we're the best. We think we're the most morally supreme creatures in the universe. We got news for you, though. All right, anyway, so the government people, they come in to try to save them, but it turns out, after examining the cheerleader girl, they didn't want to bring her. Right? They don't believe that she has what it takes in her blood to be able to make it worth it to take her back to safety. So this doctor lady sits down with her, opens up her case that's got this syringe inside of it. And she's like, what's that? Hey, what's going on? What's that? Why do you have that syringe? And the girl, who represents this sort of government kind of entity, says, oh, I'm just going to give you something. Just going to give you a little something. And she says, but if I do have that stuff, it'll get rid of it, right? Because she's talking about how she has that rash. And she's like, if you inject me, it'll get rid of it, right? I won't have it anymore. Yeah, sure. That's right. And she just looks up. This is why people are called sheep. Okay? Yeah, don't let people put things in your body if you don't know what it is. So she lays down and she takes a nice little forever nap. See ya. All right. So she says, I'm not going to debate the issue. I'm not going to be a party to taking anybody else back. So she basically says, I just killed this girl. They want to take people back. We haven't figured out why yet, but we will. He says, you have to live up to it. He's about to grab his gun to shoot her, right? because you don't go against the system. In whatever world they live in, you don't go against their guidelines, right? Or you die. It's punishable by death. So she beats him to the punch, takes out the gun, shoots her own person, and then she goes and gets high and chills out in the little couch area in this club or whatever it is. The guy in the Santa outfit is what was his name? Fudge, I just forgot that dude's name. But anyways, he's the guy that we met earlier, one of the other survivors. He went home to San Diego to try to find his mom. He couldn't find her. He just found some zombies and stuff like that. So he came back because it's Christmas time. He's dressed up as Santa, and he brought all these roses with him. Lots of plasma apocalypse symbolism. So she's sitting there contemplating whether or not to kill herself because she's not all about all of this. Points the gun at him, and she goes, "I'm not thinking straight." That is an honest statement. Not just because, oh my God, I don't know what to do because the world ended. She can't think straight. Remember, she's losing her memory, right? She's struggling to come to terms with her identity. She's starting to lose the grasp of who she actually is and what is important and what isn't. For example, she says, "I wrote everything down, but I think I misspelled it." She's finding it difficult to put her thoughts together, and she's pointing this gun at him because she knows he's dangerous. I didn't take a picture of it, but basically then she says, oh, she looks at the gun. She's like, "Do you need this?" And she offers him the gun. That's how she's kind of losing her mind slowly. Now she decides to take the syringe and she wants to inject herself. She's not going to be a party to this. She decides to just take herself out and have her own little forever nap. So the Eric Estrada dude in the Santa Claus suit comes up to her and checks to make sure, yep, she died. Now we're suddenly transported into the secret underground facility that's represented by this maze symbol. And we've got this lab coat guy who's sitting there writing things down, asking these strange questions to Regina, who's sitting across from him. He says, "Do you have diabetes?" She's like, "I just want to know where I am and what I'm doing here." She's a truth seeker. She's got some questions. "You're a very strong-willed lady," right? Yes, she does have a very strong will. Now, meanwhile, while the government guy's asking her all these medical questions, the actual medical people are having their own conversation elsewhere in this base or whatever it is, wherever they are, right? This underground base. And this girl says, "I can't remember how much blood we're expected to get from these people." Now she's having memory problems, right? There is a collective worldwide amnesia that is suffered by everyone for various reasons. I do have videos on that if you'd like to check it out too. It's under the Plasma Apocalypse playlist that I have. She says, now that we've terminated brain functions, they're brain dead, all they can do now is manufacture blood. So now we understand that somewhere else on this property, the scientists that are trying to rescue the survivors and bring them there are essentially harvesting bodies, making them brain dead, and harvesting them for blood. They want their blood. So we have this elite secret group that has these syringes that they use to basically kill people, and everyone else they take and they keep them alive for the sake of pumping and producing blood that they're going to use for something. She says, "I hope that she's just as healthy as she looks. Did you see her hair? Boy, what I wouldn't give for hair like that." All right, so we go back to the examiner guy. This guy's starting to have problems, so he takes out a pair of sunglasses, and he says, "Have you ever had any medication in the last 4 hours?" Puts on his sunglasses, and he's sitting there in a dark room with sunglasses. He's starting to sort of turn into like the Fantazoid race, essentially, and he's having this aversion to light, etc., right? Now, we find out we need blood to develop the serum. So this elite group needs the blood of all of the survivors or whatever in order to develop some sort of essence, okay, some sort of serum to help them to not die or to help them to live longer. Some people might see the adrenochrome symbolism that is definitely being shown to us here. Also, the dark crystal, right? Where you had the Skeksis, and the Skeksis harvested the essence or the plasma or whatever. And that's, I believe, also another reason why you have all of these people out here that are like, hey, come donate your plasma. We don't even want your blood. We'll give you back your blood. We just come give us your plasma or whatever. And people go out there and they give them like 15, 20 bucks or something to sit there for an hour and suck out your life's essence. They just give you money for it. You know what I mean? Like, I used to do that. Oh my God, I'm so glad I stopped. I'm dead serious. I'm so glad I stopped. I felt like my soul was being drained. Man, that's okay. That's a little personal. But anyways, let's go back to the movie. He says, we don't have enough for everybody. Now, here comes the Eric Estrada looking Santa Claus outfit boyfriend guy, who is now dressed up in a disguise as a cowboy. He pulls up in this old car in front of the gate to the facility. He's trying to rescue them, right? It's a rescue operation. And he looks at this other guy and he goes, hey, hey, partner, you like girls? And the guy looks at him like, maybe, is this some kind of black market exchange going on, cowboy? Right? And he goes, look in here, look what I got. And then he shows he shows the other guy, the girl, the cheerleader girl that just died because of the injection. And he goes, she's dead. And he goes, she ain't dead. See, this lady shot her up with sodium pentothal to make this fellow think she was dead. Fa-pow! And then he knocks him out. She opens her eyes. Turns out she's not dead again. That's her role in this movie. I think when they casted her, they're like, okay, can you play a live girl that should have been dead, that survives, that dies, but then it turns out she didn't die, but then she dies again, then it turns out she didn't die, then it turns out she dies again, then it turns out she didn't die? She's like, yeah, I've actually done that before. I don't know. Anyways, it's an interesting role. So the cowboy guy looks down at her and he says, so that you wouldn't suck her blood out, you a-hole, or whatever. Right? So he knows. He's figured out that they're bloodsuckers. They're harvesting people for their blood. Now Regina's walking around because she's escaped. She sees the blood hanging up there. As you can see, they show you that sort of bluish white light that's representative of her calling, which is Regina, or the straight line, the blue beam. Okay, now we get to this other part of the laboratory where they have these children. See this little Asian girl right here? She's a survivor. They have collected a few children. And if you look closely, they want this little girl to put on this mask and breathe in this chemical. What chemical are they about to give her? N2O. Nitrous oxide, essentially. Laughing gas, right? They want this little girl, the survivor, to suck in all of this laughing gas. And they say, she's like, I don't know. My parents told me not to breathe in strange things from people. And they're like, you'll just giggle. It'll just make you laugh. The reason they choose this, because they can use anything. If the point of the movie was to get the survivors to pass out so that they could make them brain dead and harvest their blood and stuff, you don't have to use nitrous oxide. There's a plethora of different things you could have used, to make people pass out or whatever, right? And they say, you'll just giggle. The reason is because nitrous oxide is one of the main chemical gases that are created as a byproduct of the nitrous that is in the air, or the nitrogen that is in the air, and the oxygen, the new, freshly introduced oxygen that shoots up from the blue beam at the middle of the world, that oxygenates the world once more, creating gas clouds of nitrous oxide, which has all kinds of different byproducts. One of those is it gets people high. It makes people happy. It makes people laugh a lot, right? So they're showing you this symbolically in the movie, and they're trying to force it upon this little girl. So they say, you'll just giggle and then you'll feel a little sleepy. So some people that breathe, that have these pockets of nitrous oxide gas clouds, right? They'll laugh, they'll start giggling and stuff, which is why they do it on the Black Hole Sun video, which is why they have Monty Python's, whatever it was, that skit, where they told a joke and whoever heard it died laughing, which is why in Roger Rabbit, the weasels, they die from laughing so hard or whatever. It's a laughing plague. It's also seen as symbolically. And then you'll feel a little sleepy. It can also make you pass out, which is why you don't want to go to sleep during the apocalypse, because there's a lot of stuff that can kill you if you're passed out, right? Some people get lucky and they sleep through it. Others pass out. They fall asleep. They get sucked up into the sky. They get smashed or smushed or God knows what, eaten by a Fantazoid or a zombie or something, right? Don't fall asleep. This is the apocalypse, right? Now, they also lie to her. I didn't record this part, but in order to get this little girl to take all this nitrous oxide so that they can harvest her blood, right? They tell her, if you inhale this, then when you wake up, you'll be at the North Pole with Santa Claus and you'll live with Santa Claus forever. They just lie to this girl. Now, symbolically, they're not lying. Symbolically, those people that get hit by those nitrous oxide gas clouds who breathe in too much of it and they black out and they pass out, very likely could get sucked up and tossed about in a world tempest and end up literally at the North Pole because they're in a huge cyclone that, is pulling them towards the center. So there might be some truth to that. Now, the main character, Regina, she busts into the room with a gun. She says, "Get your hands up," right? Totally rescues the kids. They all do this international sign for peace, right? That's why you put your hands up in the air. It's not to show I don't have weapons, because you could do that in all kinds of different ways, right? Hands straight up. This is the Atlas character. This is the squatter man. This means peace. It's the sign for peace because the plasma shoots up and it branches out, makes little hands and little feet and stuff. So people put their hands up as a sign of peace. All right, so they all do their little squatter man. And the girl tells on the elite. She says, "They said if we breathe this, that we could go to the North Pole and see Santa Claus." Regina's pissed when she hears this and sees what's going on. So the next thing you know, they all take off. They all leave the room. And then the doctors, all the other doctors, come into that room and they just hear all this giggling and laughing and stuff. And then when they look, you see Regina has taken the nitrous oxide masks and taped them around their face and bound their arms and legs so that they're stuck in bed giving a constant dose of nitrous oxide. And then she drew a sign for her comrades, and the sign says, "Going to see Santa." So look at him. She's just busting up laughing. She can't help it. This is one of the best ways to get back at the elite in the movies. Oh my God, it was the best. I'm still tearing up. It's so funny. It's busted me up laughing. So she gave them a piece of their own medicine, basically. Now, we get to the elite people. They're all trying to get in their cars to go chase after everyone who just escaped from the facility. The main doctor who is asking the question, he totally turns into this sort of Fantazoid. Maybe he's got the T virus or something, but he turns into this talking zombie or whatever. However, the cowboy guy had put a bomb on their car to be sparked when they start the car. So he made a car bomb, blew up the zombie people. That's the end of the zombie people. Now all the bad guys are gone. That's sort of the end of the movie. However, we can see the survivors here. We've got the Eric Estrada Santa Claus dude from earlier here. We've got that little girl that was going to go to the North Pole through the nitrous oxide trip. We've got the other kid that was with her. And then we've got Regina. Regina means queen, landowner. She now is a landowner. She now is free. She is now the rule maker and the law maker, and she lives up to her name. You also can see that they're all dressed in a very strange way. The movie would have you believe that they just sort of looted a bunch of places, dressed up real nice just to take pictures and stuff. That's understandable, but they're also wearing very long clothing. Whereas in the beginning, she was not so modest with her style of dress. Now they're more modest, and including being more modest, right? They're at this stoplight. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on. They're right underneath the stoplight, right? Or stopwalk or whatever it's called, right? And she says, her sister's across the street, the cheerleader. She's like, "Come on, what are you guys waiting for?" And they're like, "We don't go against the light. We don't cross against the light." And she's like, the whole burden of civilization has fallen upon us. So now they're on the straight and narrow. Now they're going to go according to the rules. Now they're going to do the right thing no matter what. And one of those things is we do not cross against the light. Now, it's symbolic, right? I mean, they could totally cross the street because they're in a ghost town, which their sister is about to say. She's like, "This is really stupid," right? But she's not saying we don't jaywalk. That's not what's being said here. What's being said is that the survivors, right? Those of us who have that, carry that remnant of that light, we do not cross against the light. The light is interpreted in many different ways, usually God, right? That's why they have sort of almost a religious overtone to their style of dress, as if they're going to church or something, right? We do not cross against the light. They're going to uphold what is good and pure and stuff. Now, the sister is like, that's totally stupid. She runs across the street. She's trying to explain to them, like, dude, you can do whatever you want to. They understand that, and they want to be good. They want to be law-abiding or whatever. She says, there's nobody here. See? Look, we're talking about a ghost town. Look. And she starts waving around, dancing around in the street and stuff. Next thing you know, of course, a car screeches out of nowhere. But it's not just any car. Let's take a look at this car. Wait a minute. A Mercedes? Another Mercedes with the exact same symbol on it? Now, earlier in the movie, this Mercedes is interesting because the license plate says DMK. And I did not mention this at the beginning of the movie, but we will talk about it now. So the driver of the car, this guy's like, God, I'm so sorry, but you shouldn't cross against the light like that. Who says it like that? Cross against the light. I mean, like, I've never even used that expression in my entire life. I didn't even know that was an expression. Hey, don't cross against the light. I mean, I'm sure people say that, but that's a very specific way of saying, like, hey, don't cross when it's red, or, you know, don't go against the hand, or there's all kinds of different ways you could say that. But he says it the exact same way that they said it, mostly because it was scripted that way, but it's scripted that way because there's meaning to it, essentially, right? All right, so this guy's wearing blue, symbolic of the blue beam and stuff. Now, this is where it gets kind of fun or funny. This chick has been trying to flirt with the Eric Estrada dude that Regina ended up with, this guy right here, because she saw him as being the last man on Earth. So she's always, like, you know, upset throughout the movie that her sister steals her boyfriends, and this is the last guy on Earth. And all of a sudden, this cute dude in a convertible shows up, and she's like, cha-ching, takes off her glasses. He's like, wow, you guys are survivors too, huh? You know, and she's super happy about it. She met this guy and she has someone to be with in the apocalypse or whatever. She silently tries to thank God for her great luck. She's like, never mind. Good, nice car. He says, thanks. I have 23 of them. You want to go for a ride? Now, all we have up until this point is tension between this man and this woman. You already know what kind I'm talking about. Now, we have more context because he says, thanks, I have 23 of them, then invites her to go for a ride. 23 of them, specifically. We've got a lot of tension between the man and the woman, survivors of the apocalypse. They're basically showing you that they're going to go procreate. They're going to go and fill the world up once more. If we take a look at the number 23, I'm just going to read it here. It says it represents change, progress, and innovation. In terms of numerology, the number 23 signifies new beginnings, revolution, and transformation. These number patterns hold a lot of positive energy and signify spiritual growth. Also, angel number 23 has come into your life to remind you that you are always worthy of love and affection in this universe. That girl, Samantha, she literally said that she feels like she's never going to get the guy. She doesn't feel worthy of love and affection, and it's exhibited throughout the movie. This goes on to say, it's natural to feel this way when everything around you is negative, like the end of the world. But do not water these thoughts and replace them with better ones as soon as they pop into your head. Last but not least, is the number 23 a lucky number? I typed in. And Google says the 23 enigma is regarded as a corollary to the law of fives. Here comes the 5 again. Because 2 plus 3 equals 5. In these works, 23 is considered lucky, unlucky, sinister, strange, Doctor Strange, sacred to the goddess Eris, which is the goddess of love, also known as Cupid, right? Or sacred to the unholy gods of the Cthulhu mythos. Now we're tying in the number 23 with Cthulhu, right? And those cosmic ancient ones that only make an appearance from time to time and are and bring with them the apocalypse, the world eaters and such. Interesting connection to this post-apocalyptic and apocalyptic movie. She's like, yeah, more than you know. Let's go make babies, basically. Let's go take me for a ride. We're going to go and multiply and fill the world once more. That's kind of what's being said there. Now, this guy, he's like, we don't know anything about this guy. Now, look up here in the corner, speaking of numbers. Fopow. Do you see that? 333. Many of you probably see this string of numbers. So let's talk about it real quick. Angel number 333, symbolism, says in numerology, repeating the number 333 represents the Holy Trinity, and you are being watched over by angels and ascended masters. Now, there's various interpretations of numbers when it comes to numerology, and especially when it comes to angel numbers and stuff like that. So I'm going to give you my gist of the number 23. I mean, the number 333, right? So 333 is the trifecta. It's the perfection. It's the threefold, and it's all together. And then all throughout these, the one thing that they agree on is that you are surrounded by angels. Now, in this movie, at the very least, they live in an energetically charged world where there will be energetically charged phenomena all over the place, aka angels or ghosts or things like that. All right. He says, where's he from? What's his name? Who is this guy that you're going to go drive off with? What's your name? She says, Danny Mason Keener, DMK. Now, earlier she was playing that video game called The Tempest, and it turns out DMK is this guy, and he was beating her high score or whatever, actually her sixth high score. And DMK turns out to be this guy. His name is Danny Mason Keener. He comes in at the very end. He's a nobody pretty much. And yet they give him 3 names, which tells us it's time to look it up. All right, so Dan, or Don E, right? A title of address to members of religious orders around the 1300s from the Old French don, the modern dom, D-O-M, like Dom Perignon, right? Dom or Dominus means Lord. So, Don-E or Doni, Donnie, Danny, however you want to say it, means my Lord. Okay, so that's his first name, my Lord. Second name, Mason. Now, many of you are familiar with this one. Essentially, you're used to it meaning to build a structure builder, a house builder typically, or a temple builder. But if we take a closer look, it says it's from the Proto-Indo-European root word mag, which means to knead, to fashion, or to fit. Creators, essentially. Mag is where we get magi, or my mag, and it is also the root of the word magnificent, majestic, and magician, to name a few, right? Magic wielders, essentially. Mash'on also could be interpreted as those who came up out of the waters. Or not up out of the water, but those who were drawn from the water, right? So is that the waters above, or is that the ocean that they're talking about, the waters below? Keen, his last name is Keener, right? Which means to be more keen, or somebody who does keen, whatever that would be. Now, keen is a word connected to an older word called Can, C-A-N. It's also spelled in different ways. Keen means like wise, intelligent, bold, and some other things. Fearless, right? If you're keen, usually it means you're pretty sharp, right? But it stems from Kan. What is Kan? Kan stems from the Proto-Indo-European root word G-N-O, to know, which is the root word of Gnostics, or Gnosticism, Gnosis, right? To know. So, his name fully is, his last name, it means knower, somebody who knows something. Danny, which is my Lord. Mason, which is from the waters. Or you could say my Lord house builder, if you would like to, or builder, or somebody who fashions. Lord who fashions knowledge. Those of the waters who are knowers, those who have the knowledge, essentially, right? Interesting that they throw that in there. And it's interesting that they probably, I'm guessing, expected people like me one day to break it down and to pick it up, to notice it. All right. So anyways, I wanted to show you the high score. Also, there's DMK. I went back in the movie. So Regina puts hers up there. He's 6th place, the number 6. He's represented by the Vav, the number 6. And it shows you that at the beginning. So she jumps into the convertible with the knowledgeable Mason guy. They drive off towards this obelisk-looking pyramid with an eye in the middle of it type building way off there in the distance. As you can see, they take off. And they all just kind of watch them take off. It's very anticlimactic. I didn't mean to show that next slide. That next slide is from something else I'm going to break down. But that was the night of the comet, which was pretty sweet. I love it. I felt like it really encapsulated a lot of the plasma apocalypse theory that we talk about. We've covered the nitrous oxide. We talked about the maze, getting to the center of the maze. Eminem made an appearance. There was the triple V, the triple 5, which is actually 666, which is actually Vav, 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 which is actually just spiral, 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 or the trifecta, right? That's another thing. Anything that is its own number that many times is the perfection of that number. So three times is the perfection of 3. We talked about the various words. We talked about how the movies can distract those who are not paying attention with various images and stuff. We talked about how the sky turns red. We talked about zombies and the mod zombies coming to life and cleaning house. We talked about the red dust, the dust of the world being kicked up into the sky, and how the sky itself turns red. Let's see, we talked about plasma possession. We talked about the Sandman and how the Sandman comes, puts everybody to sleep, which is just symbolic and a cartoonification personified like through DC comics and stuff like that, and they encapsulate these attributes of an event and they personify them, putting them into a character essentially, which is what all of the superheroes and supervillains are. We talked about the rapture. We talked about people getting sucked up into the sky, eaten by Kronos, spontaneous human combustion. We talked about fiat, what that is, the killer clowns from outer space. We talked about the sinuses and how the depressurization affects the sinuses to give you psychic nosebleeds and stuff. The sky changing different colors, plasma entering in. We talked about Faraday cages. We talked about nitrous oxide causing people to laugh their asses off and get high at the end of the world. We talked about how nobody would even believe this, and it's just a story. Just like this is just a movie. And for some of you, you were just purely amused and entertained. And that's okay with me. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye. Thanks for watching.
So hard to fade away. I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay.
Aloha, what's up? Okay, so a little post credits stuff. Let me get. Why do I have all this stuff on the screen? Hold on. Hey, I had a great time, by the way. I want to give another shout out to Archaics, who a few of you actually recommended this movie. I like getting all the different movie recommendations, and I just wanted to give a huge shout out. Some people had donated, and I had the alerts, I guess, turned off or something, and I wasn't really in the chat. So I want to say thank you to Mishka Nagagato, aka Jason Enriquez, Boudica, and Cassiopeia Toro twice. Thank you all for your donations during the presentation, and thanks all the rest of you. Everyone else not sitting on a cushion, thank all of you too. It's good to spend some time with you. So I'm honored by your presence, and I hope you had a good time. Until then, I'll see you guys.